Okay, that's it. I'm not trying this anymore. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Nothing I can do about it at this point. I'm tired. It's 8:46 my time, 9:46. I am almost an hour late to my life. But I don't think anybody was there. But I know you're here now because you're watching it. I'm exhausted, but I'm gonna have fun. All right. So, uh, if you're here from Esoteric Truth Radio, that used to be my old show, then it's gonna sound kind of weird. I'm gonna turn off closed caption. It's gonna sound kind of weird, the topic that I'm gonna talk about, but they do mesh together, so I think it'll be fine. So recently, due to world events, um, there are keywords. Everybody in the government, everybody who has a certain clearance understands that there's keywords, especially people in the military. They absolutely know these keywords and they learn those keywords. So they have their own like foxtrot and blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people that the higher ups that want to hide in plain sight. So let's say, these two countries are arguing, right? Like we're doing it right now. So let's say these two countries are arguing, right? Having it out. It's some bullshit. They don't have to be in the same place at the same time in order to have a conversation. One guy can say, "Hey, by the way, I had eggs for breakfast and they were absolutely delicious." That person in another country and higher up who also understands the code will now decipher that code. And it's stupid and it's simple, but it works. It always has. Now, before we had this, like, everything's on television, everything's in television, everything's in movies. There was a different way. So I wrote a paper about Bob Hope. First of all, Bob Hope is like as American as apple pie, right? No, he's British. He was born in Britain. He was uh he was knighted or whatever it is that they do over there. Anyway, he was a big deal. But here, nobody knew. So he used to travel around as a lot of people know. He used to travel around in really deep circles, but he traveled around with the military all over the world as a comedian, as a storyteller, as a form of entertainment. He was entertaining, but he got into places a lot of people couldn't go. So he would be able to go on these secret little missions because now people are tying it together. I want to say now because I wrote this about 15 years ago, but he would go to these different countries and he would get into places that nobody else really could under the guise of, I'm just traveling for the military. So he was part of the USO. USO isn't part of the military, not at all. Has nothing to do with the military. So, I mean, going to military bases doesn't make you part of the military. So people thought that, he was just looking out for everybody else. Come to find out that he was an agent, not an asset. So, agent, asset, two different things. Agent, which he was somebody who's given a job to do secretly and then doesn't. And then an asset is somebody that you tell them to do something. They're snitches. It's like a snitch. And, it's a quid pro quo, right? So you tell them to do something and then you get something in return. That's kind of how the asset part works. And we're going to cover that in a little bit. Even though I'm late, and I know you don't know that, I'm just telling you because I'm stressed out. Even though I'm late, I'm going to stay here as long as I feel like it. So I am going to take intermissions. I'm going to pause every once in a while so I can get up and get something to drink. Okay. So let's get to the point here. There's a lot of little points, but they're all super important. So I want you to pay attention. When they do these secretive little things, when they things are different this time. I don't do politics. I don't. And I've been really pissed off lately about the whole Trump situation, right? And I've been doing shows, good shows, because I do my research, good shows. But recently I started bumping into something completely different. Okay. Because I have to explain this without sounding like a crazy person, but I'm cool with sounding like a crazy person. So even though all of this stuff is going on, what's going on right now between Russia and Ukraine and Canada and us and no, 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 no. It's a worldwide thing. Worldwide. And I don't mean financially. I'm saying that they're up to something and it's going to be big. It's going to be big. And everybody in the world is going to be affected by it. And I'm going to tell you how while you go on this ride with me. So even though everything's going real fast, right? Trump's been in office, what, not even a month and a half, maybe a month and a half now. World is upside down. You're flooded. Like Steve Bannon said, flood the zone, right? So you're just information, information, just nothing but nonstop information all the time. So you're bombarded. And I've been bombarded enough where I put up like 6 videos in the last 2 weeks um, about Trump, not about this, but about Trump. So I'm going to take all the little things that I was able to gather up and then some extra really juicy shit I found out last night. And this is why I'm here today. So forgive the technical difficulties. From now on, I'm going to do streams like this. I don't think I'm going to do lives. They never work for me. I don't know why, but you still get to see my face and my cute little hat with the ears on it. And you still get to hear a ton of information. Whether you're listening to me on the radio, like a really good friend of mine who's a trucker. Shout out to him. Or you're gonna watch this on one of my other platforms. And by the way, if you do like my information and you do want more of this, then by all means, it's free to press the follow button. It's free to press the like button, and it's free to subscribe. So here are my platforms. Love Spiracy on YouTube, Trinity Love Spiracy on Spotify, Love Spiracy on Facebook, Necessary Truth Radio on Facebook, and Love Spiracy, Trinity Love Spiracy on Rumble. You can find me at all those places. Here's the key. If you've been here this long, and I don't know how long I've been doing this, for the last couple of minutes, here is the secret to following me. YouTube has rules. You can't say or show or do certain things on YouTube that you could do on Rumble. If you only follow my YouTube channel, that's my straight laced channel. If you go to my Rumble channel, it's something completely different. Sometimes I'm gonna be, hey, I just gonna, it's simple, easy stuff. Everybody's it's for everybody. That'll be on my YouTube channel. The stuff they'll ban or they'll shut my channel down for, that'll be on my Rumble channel. So by all means, I will be posting um instead of live events, because like I said, unless I get a producer, which I do not have, everything I do by myself. Until I get somebody to help me to make sure that all my stuff is up to par, you'll get recordings of me like this. And they'll be extended. When I do audio, it will be 15 minutes max. Okay, now that I'm done, and thank you for being here, I appreciate it. All right, let's get to the nitty gritty. So this is a worldwide thing. I did a show not so long ago discussing Ivana Trump. So I want to talk about Trump's part on this stage right now in this moment and how he got here. It wasn't down as the goal to escalate. It wasn't any of that. None of that. It's something completely different. He has been a Russian asset since 1979 to 1980. Okay. So Ivana was Czechoslovakian. And I know I didn't say that right, but she's Czechoslovakian. Anyway, they met, they fell in love, whatever. I think about a year and a half in, he married her. She used to come in and out of the country constantly to where she used to live. Now, let me make some certain points so you understand that in the 70s and 80s, it was bunkers. You could go anywhere. You could do anything. You could walk in there with a machete in one hand and a machine gun in the other and get on a plane. Nobody cared about anything. Nobody, ever. So Everybody was free to roam all over the place. Like we weren't the way that we are today. Okay. She kept going back to her family and stuff like that. So according to this guy's book, oh my God, I forgot his name. I never meant to look it up. I'll look it up. Anyway, this guy who just came out with a book where he's explaining, and he's been writing this book for like 30 years. He's explaining exactly how Ivana Trump's family in Czechoslovakia were very poor. You know, she came from like a little village. She was very poor. And they started realizing that when she was coming back and forth, she was bringing, money and things. And she was like, hey, life is going good in the US and blah, blah, blah. Fine. So apparently, from point A to point B, she was intercepted at some point before they got married. She was intercepted. Trump had status, Trump had money. Trump was in very, very serious circles at that time when he married her. She was a very smart businesswoman. She knew how to do things on her own. She listened, she watched, she paid attention, she internalized, she put out. That's what she did. Smart as hell. Okay, I had to put that out there. By her being intercepted at some point and being offered things, because that's how everybody does things. Never think that the powers that be don't know how to get to you. They do. It's money, it's status, it's things. That's how Trump got in. That's how Trump got in. It wasn't that he was a nobody. He was, but he had status because of his father. And then, he gets this money and then he starts screwing up, screwing up, screwing up, screwing up. He can't do that. If you learn anything about Donald Trump, his dad would be rolling over in his grave. And I'm talking about back then because he was losing money. It's like, how did I teach you all of these things and you can't seem to like get it right? And that's why he's got this narcissistic thing that his name has to be on everything. That's upbringing. Your parents can really fuck you up. Okay. And yes, they will be cursing. If you don't like it, shut it off now because it's not going to end. All right. Anyway, so he goes ahead. He meets her. She's like, I heart you forever. He's like, yes, I love it. Let's go. Let's get married. Right. She's, beautiful and everything. Fine. He goes, he gets involved. About a year and a half into their marriage, she's intercepted again. She's told that she needs to talk to Trump about running for political office. This was in the early 80s. Oh, this was in the early 80s. Trump tried to run for president. Well, he didn't try to run. He was talking about himself in politics in the very, very early 80s. And this is before he became, no, I'm sorry. He was always a piece of shit. But before it really got advanced, before it really got out of control, he was pretty much learning the ropes. So he's starting to make investments. He's starting to do things. He's bleeding money. He's bleeding money. Everybody in those inner circles that were like, let's take him in because he's generationally wealthy. Let's bring him in our circle. They started seeing the bad mistakes he was making, and people are starting to, side eye him a little like, I don't know if I want to give this dude my money. Then comes Ivana, says, you know what? Maybe you should look into politics. Maybe real estate's not for you. Maybe being bigger and being better, maybe that's your true calling. He goes, he's on TV because there's video. He's on TV. He's telling people that he's considering it, right? Because he always has to make a show out of everything. So he says that he is considering it. He kind of just drops it. He doesn't talk about it anymore. During this time, they realized how easy it is for him to be duped. They knew they got something, and it was real good. So he goes into play. He starts doing whatever the hell he wants to do. He's getting financial backing. So what this guy is saying is that Trump was backed by the Saudis back then. He's always been borrowing money. That's why he can't pay anybody back. He borrows, he borrows, he borrows, he borrows, he borrows. He's like a gambler, or like a drug addict. He just doesn't stop. So he winds up taking all of this money And they're like, look, we'll give it to you. And mind you, please keep in mind, Trump couldn't go broke. He couldn't go broke. That was not an option. He would do anything not to go broke, not to dirty up his father's name. That was his main concern. So if I come up to you and I'm like, hey, I'm gonna give you this money, I just need you to, it's little things, right? That's how it starts. It's like if you ever watch those little public service announcements when they were kids, and like there's some guy, he's leaning on a building and this little kid walks by and he's like, hey kid, what are you doing? uh hey, you want to try some crack? And the kid's like, what? He's like, here, just take it for free this time because you'll be back. That's what happened with Trump. They gave him something. They said, you just got to start off small. It's like the mob. Just do this little thing. It's all right. Nobody's going to pay attention. Nope. He got bigger into it, bigger into it, bigger into it. And it wasn't just that he was borrowing money, he was also claiming things that he couldn't provide. And like he does now, like he's always been doing. If you ever listen to him talk, you know that that's what he does. This is why World War III is so important and where he plays a key. I can't bring up Trump as much as I'd like to without first telling you how Trump came into play. Because for people that don't look, or people that miss the mark, or the people that get flooded by the zone of bullshit constantly on TV, you're going to miss these parts. Like the reason why people think that his his rising or whatever is so unbelievable is because they don't know how it happened. When you realize that his wife got him in, you realize she came from a very tiny place. She was obviously offered things. He's been an asset for a very long time, not just for Russia, but for the Saudis, always. So let's go. Let's keep moving forward. He gets really full of himself. He starts showing his ass all over the place, right? He's all over New York. He's making casinos, but now he's running his mouth. Before he was the money, but he didn't talk. Not as much as he talks today. So people didn't take him seriously. So he started saying some real out of pocket stuff. Stuff that you say indoors, you don't say outdoors. You shouldn't say it all, but you definitely shouldn't be saying it outside. Instead of internalizing his hate, he started spewing it out loud in front of newspapers, in front of any audience that would listen to him, anybody. He didn't care who it was. And it was a good thing, by the way, because people still don't know 90% of the stuff that he's done over the years. None of this is new. But for me to get involved all of a sudden and not give a shit about politics my whole life, it's because I can hear the key words. I hear what they're saying. They're having private conversations. They're doing it on TV. I'm gonna give you a quick example. I didn't know. I didn't know what the coalition of the willing was. Everybody keeps saying it, right? I was like, it sounds really fancy, like it sounds like some covert shit, right? So I'm like, okay, I gotta find out what the coalition of the willing is. So of course, I'm like, boop, boop, boop. I didn't have my VPN on. I was like, ugh. So I log out of my stuff. Now, mind you, when I did it on Google, it was just, people will help you out, blah, blah, blah. This is not being sidetracked about what I'm about to say. Not sidetracked at all. Please keep in mind, I'm talking about a worldwide event. When I got on my VPN, it put me in the Netherlands. When I put in the Coalition of the Willing, there is literally another one called the Coalition of the Willing. Now, if you know any brand, it doesn't matter if it's governmental or not, you can't take a name like that. You can't take something associated with something that big. But it is. Give me a second. I promise you, I have been doing my homework. So I didn't know what the Coalition of the Willing was in the first place. So I was like, okay, there's got to be something that I'm missing. There has to be. Okay. So when you look it up regular, it says the Coalition of the Willing and it was in Iraq, right? So apparently, what's his name? Bush was like, hey, he's got these weapons of mass destruction. That means we're all screwed if he sets off a nuclear bomb, which is a fact. And I'll be bringing up nuclear bombs in a minute. Yes. So everybody was like, oh man, mind you, it's not because they're scared. That was another instance. There was a point in time where Iraq was literally wiped clean. They took everything. This isn't so much about what you think it is. This is why I'm saying it's so important. Okay. I knew I'd find you. Okay. No, you can't access my location. Okay. So anyway, let me cover this really quick before I read to you what I want to read to you. Because I'm going to try to chop this up into segments, but for some odd reason, it is supposed to have a timer to tell me how long I've been talking and I can't figure it out. I don't want to drag on for hours and then have to edit it. Okay, anyway, I'll do it really quick. And then I'm going to pause and I'm going to come back. So, okay. So, the Coalition of the Willing, what it started, they're saying it started mostly after the Iraq War, right? Shock and awe. So, they were like, okay, well, this is what's happening. We're going to need everybody's help, blah, blah, blah. So, if now I'm going a little bit into politics, I'm going a little bit into World War III, and I'm going very esoteric with this part. Very hidden types of information about what really happened in Iraq and what it turned into and how we got here again today. And the Coalition of the Willing is back up. And now that there's two coalitions of the willing and what the second one is actually doing. If you look this up, please use a VPN. Do not, I look up some weird stuff. I always use a VPN. Use a VPN. You should get one anyway. Doesn't matter what you're looking up. Use a VPN. When they get the world together, that's a big problem. I'm going to come back. I'm going to not just tell you about the Coalition of the Willing. I'm going to read verbatim what they do and how it affects the entire planet. And all I ask is, before you click on the next video, and don't cheat, go into the comments and tell me, no cheating. Tell me what you think another organization or agency would have the exact same name of the Coalition of the Willing. Nobody in the government seems to care. It's a worldwide phenomenon. And I think it also is one of the key words that they're using on TV. I think it's a key word that they're throwing around, but that they're talking to somebody else, not to each other. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get my Coalition of the Willing stuff. I don't want to drag these out. Like I said, I don't know how long I've been here. I'm going to try to time myself. It's a 9:09. I'm going to come back with the Coalition of the Willing. So again, I ask you, don't cheat. What could possibly be called that? Now, I already told you what the Coalition of the Willing actually means. If you want to look that up, look that up. Who would have the audacity to name themselves something that's so associated with a worldwide event like shock and awe? It wasn't just the United States and it wasn't just Iraq. That's why the Coalition of the Willing is involved. So hopefully we leave that right there in the comments, and I will see you in just a few minutes.
If you enjoy our content, please show your support by liking, sharing, and following. Our strength is in independent media. Our voices matter. Thank you for making this possible.